Hi everyone, welcome to week 3, and we're going to begin this week by talking about the emergence of ancient Greek civilization. We're going to look at the two earliest Greek civilizations, the ancient Minoans and the ancient Mycenaeans. And both of these civilizations are influenced and shaped by the Bronze Age. So these are Bronze Age civilizations that are linked to the spread of the Bronze Age further westward into the Mediterranean from the Middle East. And so the first Greek civilization that emerged on the island of Crete, the largest of the many islands that surround the Greek peninsula. It's named Minoan. The civilization on Crete, the island of Crete, is named Minoan after its legendary ruler Minos of Crete. It's a great example of a Bronze Age civilization that's based more on commerce than on agriculture, which is a model that we start to see emerge during the Bronze Age. People have learned how to farm effectively enough that they can devote more and more time to commerce and to trade, and this becomes the main source of wealth. We have some evidence of the Minoan civilization dating back as far as 3000 BC, or we think it goes back as 3000 BC. Certainly by around 2000, we find that the Minoans are building palaces all around the island of Crete, and this is the main architectural memory that we have of the Minoans. These impressive and beautifully decorated palace structures that we see around the island. And so typically with these palaces, you have a central plaza or forum, and then you have rooms around the forum. It looks as though they had running water, they had flushing toilets. And these palaces were centers of administration, centers of storage, centers of distribution for the rest of the population. There are no walls or fortifications around them, so that suggests they were not particularly threatened from the outside, and the rest of the population lived in scattered communities around the palaces. But the palaces themselves were not huge centers of population. And so we have these different settlements around the island of Crete, but we don't have evidence of any kind of roads linking them. So historians still debate whether they just traveled by ship, that was easiest, or whether each city, it's not really a city, but each palace with its associated buildings and populations, that they were independent. Okay, now if you're following along in the PowerPoint, move along to the next slide. And we're going to talk about the geography of Crete, which reflects the geography of Greece as a whole. Greece did not have the fertile river valleys that could be used to develop grain production that we've seen in Egypt, that we've seen in Mesopotamia and the Middle East. But their success in establishing a civilization shows that these people were problem solvers. It shows they were not determined by their geography. Sometimes there's a temptation among historians and archaeologists to say these people were just successful because of the geographic advantages that they were born with or that they inherited. And that's pretty belittling to the people that we're studying. What the study of ancient Crete and the study of ancient Greece shows us is that these people of the ancient world, they were able to overcome the challenges of geography. And so we see that the Greeks are going to cultivate olive trees, taking advantage of the sun and the hills. They're going to fish extensively. They're going to be a seafaring people, and they're also going to use the sea to develop a trading network that's going to make them wealthy. And so even as early as the Minoans, we find evidence of trading networks that are connecting ancient Greece with Italy and even as far away as the Baltic. On this slide, you can see some of the pottery that was developed by the Minoans on the island of Crete. This was another way in which they developed their civilization, they developed their economy. And I think people have typically said that when you look at these products, you can see that there's more of an interest in nature, and it's kind of a little more abstract than we associate with some of the other great civilizations of the ancient world. But the Minoans are very successful. By around 2000, and for really the next 500 years, they establish a trading monopoly all across the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. If you wanted something shipped, if you wanted to buy something from another part of the Mediterranean that was being transported by sea, you would probably be doing business with the Minoans. And again, it's pretty significant, pretty interesting that this early on, there's already an established international trading network. I think sometimes people talk about international trading networks as something that was only possible in the modern world, but that's not true at all. We can find these relationships going back almost 4,000 years. What about Minoan culture? The Minoans developed a writing system that was called Linear A. It has never been deciphered. So if any of you want to be famous, go to work on Linear A. You can see an example of it on the slide. You should have moved to the third slide in the PowerPoint now. And you'll be known in Western civilization classes and upper division courses on ancient Greece and Rome like this one for as long as these classes are probably taught. So that's kind of the literary side of Minoan culture. We have little evidence of a established Minoan religion. We have small shrines in caves in the countryside. The evidence that we have is that this religion was again focused on nature and focused on fertility. Um, Minoan artwork, as I said, also focused on nature. We can see images of vegetation, of octopuses. One aspect of nature that the Minoans were especially interested in was bulls. For some reason, the bull is a really important figure in Minoan culture. And one of the leisure activities or sports of the civilization was bull leaping, which you see depicted here, where the bull leaper would grasp the horns of the bull charging towards him and try and somersault over the back of the bull. It's pretty brave and also pretty dangerous. And so we have this imagery and we have this evidence of a pretty peaceful Minoan society. Sort of naturalistic religions, is interest in nature that's displayed in their shrines. This is very different from the way the Greeks give an account of the Minoans. So, of course, we don't know what the Minoans thought about themselves because we haven't been able to decipher their writing. We have been able to decipher the writing of the Greeks. We know what the Greeks thought about the Minoans. The Greeks portray the Minoans as pretty tyrannical rulers of Crete and of Greece. They talk about the legend of the Minotaur, who was half man and half bull, and because Minos's wife had mated with a bull, and this Minotaur feasted on human flesh until he was slain by the Athenian hero Theseus. So there are a couple of possible explanations for this discrepancy, that we have these really bloodthirsty accounts of the Minoans. In later Greek legends. This may be because the Greeks are the ones who end up conquering the Minoans, we think, and so it was in their interest to portray what they did as a necessary act of liberation. It may also be the case that some archaeologists have said that there's evidence of ritual cannibalism at some Minoan temple sites or shrine sites. And so it may be that the bloodthirstiness of the Minoans has kind of been lost in the mix, or not really present in the mix as it's come down to archaeologists and historians. Maybe a little bit of a crossover of the two. But so the nature of the Minoans, what kind of civilization this was really like, what kind of society this was really like, that's something that's very much still debated among historians and archaeologists.